without further ado, we will move to the second presentation. This is a dual act by Professor Rachel Weissbrod from Bar-Ilan University and Ayelet Kohn from David Ilin Academy College of Education. Please.
Okay, thank you. So, as you can see, our title is Cativism, Illustrated Protest in Ilana Zeffren's Art. And in case you were wondering about the enigmatic first word, okay? In case you were worried about the enigmatic first word, then here is a hint. Or not. מצגת לא זזה. Right, thank you. Yeah, sorry. So again, so this is the hint. So our point of departure is a definition of nonviolent resistance. Again, but I'll do it very quick and add some ideas. We defined it as the application of unarmed citizens, civilian power using nonviolent methods such as protests, strikes, boycotts, and demonstrations without using or threatening physical harm against the opponent. So I would like to raise a question that nobody asked until now about the violence within violence. I mean, words can harm, illustrations can harm, movement can harm. And so there is a continuum of violent and non-violent actions within the non-violent resistance, and we shall return to this shortly. But we are speaking about civilians challenging the state through non-violent struggle and employ irregular political tactics. Again, something to ask about, what's irregular political tactics? Working outside the defined and accepted channels for political participation. Again, another definition that might raise some questions, and defined by the states. So as for the protests, we've heard enough about it, so I'm not going to repeat it again. But we are speaking about the main tools of resistance that are spontaneous and organized demonstrations. In the demonstration, we witness an impressive burst of creativity and inventiveness, and artists, as well as ordinary citizens, using cardboard, pencils, whatever they can find at home, brushes, express themselves in a humorous and sometimes, as we shall say, shocking, very blunt posters, costumes, and performances. As you can see, it also involves the conquering of space, another action which we might think of non-violence, but within violence. Various patterns of movement can be circles, straight lines, marching forward, etc. And even, as you can see here, the huge signs designed specifically for camera drones. So again, it's technology and art meant for viewing. So this may be generally referred as Activism, which is our main idea here. We're speaking about artists and activists who are using their artistic talents to fight and struggle against injustice and oppression. Again, very high words, by any medium necessary. Again, let's check what any medium necessary is. The artivist merges commitment to freedom and justice with the pen, the lens, the brush, the voice, the body, and the imagination, and we can add many more verbs and words to that. Our representative of activism, our case study, small case study today, is comics artist Ilana Zeffren, who is known for her multiple modes of expression and the wide range of topics she covers. As a journalist in Haaretz newspaper, Zeffren responds to events in the news in her weekly comics column Pinat Lituf, Betting Zoo. Some of you might know it. And she is also a biographer of the Israeli gay community, mainly in her graphic novel Sipur Varod, Pink Story, many years ago, and an illustrator of children's books. So many channels of expression. In all her roles, she's sensitive to weakened groups such as foreign workers, Israeli citizens, Arab citizens, and her own gay community, all targeted by the government we're speaking about. And she criticizes the attitude to these groups in a subtle and humorous way. So humor and subtlety are going to be our key concepts. Zeffren believes in the power of subtle but persistent, continuous art to make an impact. As she said in an interview, she says it much better than all of us, so let's just read it. To my opinion, she says, one can make quite a continuing revolution with art, a revolution which cremates gradually and makes change. Art can be, of course, blunt and shocking, which is excellent, but in art, you can also say things in a non-militant way, not in your face, in a more implicit way, less provocative and much more personal. And thus you can reach more people and raise less objection and more identification. This is something we can think about, but this is in the case she raises here. The hallmark of Zeffren's work is the drawing of her cats, the late Rafi and Spaghetti, and today Milraim and El, her two female cats. Our neologism, Cativism, which you've seen before, derives from their constant presence in her comics and illustrations. In line with the subfield referred to by David Herman as zoonarratology, Zeffren's cats represent and combine the two ends of the scale he delineated. On the one hand, Zeffren tries to simulate her feline point of view. On the other hand, she makes them express her own human point of view, namely, she uses them as animators in the terminology of Goffman, so they're always both cats and are representative of other people's ideas. So the duality can be exemplified, and now we are going to some examples, by this cartoon saying no to lynch, yes to lunch cartoon, which was published in Pinat Lituf following the lynching of an Eritrean refugee in Be'er Sheva, who was mistakenly identified as a terrorist. 9 different people were lynching him. The human agenda is combined with the feline agenda focused on the cat's basic need for food, yes to lunch. This cartoon also exemplifies her knowing your friend's agenda compared with the harshness of reality, as you can see here, from an excerpt from of a video that people were actually taking during the lynch, where 9 different people were hitting this Eritrean refugee, and then he was left for 8 minutes with no medical care. I think there is something interesting about comparing these both illustrations to understand how tired we are of seeing videos, and maybe a cartoon can add some ideas to the way we respect things and look at life. So again, we are getting richer in illustrations, and of course, we must mention that Haaretz readers who are acquainted with Zeffren's themes and artistic style, they follow her for many weeks, come prepared to the weekly meeting with her comics, ready to find in it a familiar combination of animals, art, humor, and criticism. These days, Zeffren and her cats take part in the Israeli Nonviolent Resistance, in body and in cartoons. Joining the protest is natural continuation of the role as supporters of the agenda in favor of weakened groups, which are very much targeted by the present government. So in the photo on the right, taken during one of the demonstrations, you can see Zeffren herself, very low there. She's a very small woman wearing glasses, carrying a poster originating in one of the cartoons she published in Pinat Lituf. In the speech bubble, the cat, identifying herself as female by the grammatical form, says shomeret, which means both guarding and keeping in Hebrew. In the context of Judaism, shomeret associates with collocations such as shomeret mitzvot, shomeret kashrut, or shomeret Shabbat, referring to a person excluding family, refrains from any physical contact with the opposite sex. In this case, the verb shomeret humorously associates the cat with guardians of the galaxy, for instance, Shomrei Galaxia, though the galaxy has been replaced with a football, naturally. At the same time, the text on the football reads Demokratia, democracy. The rallying cry shouted loudly in the demonstrations, separately or part of the collocation Demokratia or Merad. You can get the impression here and the movement. So keep in mind these 3 illustrations together as all forms of artivism. And then we might say also that Zeffren, as a member of the gay community, which is part and parcel of the protest movement, teases the Jewish orthodoxy, whose representatives in the current government are hostile to gays and threaten to send them back to the closet. So Shomeret Demokratia does that in a way. Now, using animals to make a stand against injustice is not unique to Zeffren, of course. As you know, Spiegelman's Mouse, first published in 1980, is openly populated with mice, cats, and pigs, representing the Jews, the Nazis, and Polish, respectively. A more implicit reference to animals is exemplified by the life-size golden statue of Netanyahu on the right, placed in 2016 by artist Itai Zalait in Tel Aviv City Hall Square, which is named after Rabin, Bikar Rabin. Alluding to the status of political leaders in dictatorships, it also evokes the golden calf, Egel HaZahav, the fake god worshipped by the people of Israel in the desert. Placing the statue in this significant site was meant to raise a public reaction, and it did. It was toppled by a passerby, by a citizen, a few hours after it has been erected. Another example is Orwell's Animal Farm, first published in 1945, and it has been alluded in a caricature by Avi Katz here in the middle, which is a variation on a photograph by Olivier Fitoussi on the left. So we should look at the photo on the left and then at the caricature in the middle. The photo taken in 2018 presents a victory selfie of members of the coalition, including Netanyahu in the middle, very prominent position, celebrating the approval of the nation-state bill, Chok HaLeom. The bill was intended to anchor in law Israel's status as the national home of the Jewish people. In the caricature, each pig, of course, stands for a politician who can be easily identified by his external appearance and position in the photo. The provocative caricature was accompanied by the famous quote from Orwell's book. You can all read it: all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, of course, alluding to the often heard claim that the bill focused on the rights of the nation, but did not mention democracy or equality. Now, the caricature, which equates the Prime Minister and Knesset members with pigs, in keeping with Orwell's allegory, aroused harsh reactions. Katz was accused of anti-Semitism and eventually lost his job in the journal Jerusalem Report. This reminds us of the risk activists often take, and suffice is to mention the terrorist attack on Charlie Hebdo journalist in 2015. In the photo taken in one of the demonstrations, this is on the right, the caricature was imprinted on a demonstrator's shirt, and the accompanying text, Chazirim Habayta, pigs go home, anchors it in the present context. In the demonstration, the caricature, as we were saying, becomes one with the body of the person wearing it, and it moves along with him, in this way bringing the image to life. The movement, as I mentioned previously, is a really important aspect of, again, violent or non-violent resistance. An additional element is the text on the bandana which a demonstrator wears. It evokes Rabin's murder assassination by mentioning its date and addresses Netanyahu with the words, "Bibi, we don't forget." Netanyahu, let us remember that Netanyahu has often been accused of inciting the public against Rabin, the architect of the Oslo Accords. The hatred towards Rabin culminated in the poster of Rabin in an SS uniform, and Israelis know that poster, and still shocking, presented in a demonstration that took place in Zion Square in Jerusalem in 1995. This too is a manifestation of activism, even if we don't like the idea here, though the agenda it serves, of course, is utterly different. Whatever their intention, the latter examples exemplify blunt and aggressive criticism, unlike Zeffren's subtlety, to which Rachel is going to add a few examples. Bakasha. Rega, it's half.
Okay, so this is clear in the poster we have shown, in which the connection between the two words used has to be deciphered by the people watching the poster. Moreover, typically of Zeffren, the poster does not show real people. Over the years, she has created a parallel universe populated by cats, and she delivers her criticism through them. In addition to physical presence in the demonstrations, Zeffren supports them in her weekly column Pinat Lituf. Nowadays, her column, just like Haaretz in general, is recruited to support the protest movement. The following are some recent examples. The mouse, a toy painted, this is the former one, but you probably remember it. The mouse, a toy painted in the colors of the LGBTQ flag, represents two weakened communities. Let's go back. And mice in the universe dominated by cats and the gay community in the human world. The mouse urges its addressee to come to Kaplan Street, the center of demonstrations in Tel Aviv, the city which has become a symbol of liberalism. Handmaids parades are one of the hallmarks of the demonstrations. In this picture, the cat is excited by the mice dressed as handmaids. Meragshot means exciting. The picture identifies mice and women, and typically of Zeffren, it is subtly ironic because cats are usually dangerous to mice, and the cat solidarity with the mice is to be suspected. Red, the color of the handmaids' gowns, has become the symbol of women's struggle for freedom and equality. The word mitnagdot, we resist, in the shared speech bubble, subtly criticizing those who stay at home rather than join the protest. The Israeli flag has been appropriated by the protest movement after many years during which it was identified with national groups and the controversial dance of flags. The dance is performed annually on Jerusalem Day to celebrate Israeli sovereignty over both Western and Eastern Jerusalem. In these two pictures, the flag is manipulated. The picture on the right side, originally printed on Haaretz supplement cover, shows the Star of David in decline. In Zeffren's drawing on the left, the Star of David has been replaced with a question mark. The cat's response to the uncertainty expressed by the question mark is an expression of hope. Machzika kapot, a variation on crossing my fingers, in which fingers have been replaced with cat's paws. Another flag often seen in the demonstrations side by side with the Israeli flag is the LGBTQ flag. Embracing the gay community is part of the liberal agenda of the protest movement. As mentioned, Zeffren related the history of the gay community in her biographical graphic novel Sipur Varod Pink Story, and many of her comics are meant to contribute to its acceptance into Israeli society. In the picture on the left, the two cats are wrapped with the flags associated with the demonstrations. Demonstrators wrapping themselves with flags are a common sight. The text in the bubble, Asur le'eradem, don't fall asleep, implicitly urges the demonstrators to stay alert, but it is typically ironic because the cats are napping. Again, I moved too quickly. As always in a comics, the mice are a sidekick. The handmade costume and the colors of the Palestinian flag mark them as members of two weakened communities, the first to be harmed by the government's reform. The way Zeffren presents the gay community in this and other works is in line with the general agenda. I always present, for example, lesbian relations as normative and obvious, and then even less open readers start to accept it. This is my quiet way to try to achieve a change. Art always had the power to say things and provoke thought. A concrete realization of this belief can be seen in a children's book, Nemuchonet, Shorty. A prominent aspect of Zeffren's conception of activism is the use of humor, referred to in the above quoted interview. Question: how do you succeed to express yourself without arousing antagonism? Answer: I do it by using humor, and especially cats. My cats are not just cute cats doing funny cats things. They are also a means to express a decisive views, but from a cat's point of view. I wrap what I want to say with the cat's soft fur and serve it in a gentle and amusing manner, and then it is easier to digest, and even settlers can sometimes find themselves there. I don't apologize, but I also don't say what I have to say harshly and loudly. Her use of humor is manifest in the following example. Reflecting cat's habit to sit in open boxes, drawers, and suitcases, the cat in this picture sits in a box of matzot, unleavened bread eaten during Passover. The text in the speech bubble echoes the common phrase kasher lePesach, namely kosher for Passover, but Passover has been replaced with democracy. All the stickers on the box repeat stickers and posters encountered in the demonstrations, such as I love Bagatz, referring to the High Court of Justice, which is threatened by the government. The heart-shaped sticker painted in the colors of the LGBTQ flag hints again to the conflict between the gay community and the Orthodox establishment. The humor resulting from the mixture of incongruent elements does not weaken the criticism directed against the government and its Orthodox constituents. Using humor as a weapon is also a feature of many posters seen in the demonstrations. In this poster, the photo of a cat is accompanied with the words, Bibi slicha, כבר יש לי בבית dictator. Bibi, excuse me, I already have a dictator at home. While alluding to a feature of cats which Zeffren too likes to highlight, the words Bibi and dictator are bigger and painted red. Thus, they stand out and connect to make a bold statement. As we could see, Zeffren is involved in the nonviolent protest through both her physical participation in the demonstrations and her comics. The comics support the demonstrations through their themes and the use of humor as a means of criticism. Her involvement in the protest can be highlighted by a comparison with another artist, Ze'ev Engelmeyer, the creator of the provocative Shoshke costume. שלוש שורות. זאב, a typical example of his activism is a poster he created in response to a racist poster hung in the Jewish Arab city of Ramla. The poster against which he protested was soon removed. Zeffren's art does not yield such immediate results, but it may help to bring about a slow and continuous change. Let us sum up with a typical example of Zeffren's Cativism. Thank you.